Uh-oh. I'm glad to see you here. Hopefully, this means that your type 1 diabetic person in your life isn't going to have to go through this shit one more time of saying this stuff to you, which we get. Okay, so all the time, right? Can you eat that? Are you supposed to eat that? Correct answer, type 1 diabetic. I can eat whatever the fuck I want. Excuse my language. There are type 1 diabetics who are on low carb, no carb, or carnivore, paleo. There are some type 1 diabetics who are doing Bernstein. They're only eating 6 grams of carbs. 6 grams of carbs. That's like a quarter of an apple. That's for breakfast, and 12 grams of carbs for lunch, and 12 grams of carbs for dinner, and they stick to that. And the only other carbohydrate they eat is glucose tablets for when their blood sugar is low. And there's other type 1 diabetics who are on different sorts of programs, more moderate range. You know, they're having some rice. And there's some who are high range carbohydrates for different reasons. I think of somebody, they were recording a video when they were traveling in India. It's like, I'm normally very carb, but I wanted to eat when I was on my trip. So this is the way that I deal with it when I'm eating rice and a lentil kind of meal. That's the way that I'm going to make that work for me if I'm eating a large carbohydrate meal. There are certainly type 1 diabetics who are going to have cake, and it's not going to be a problem for them because they covered it appropriately with insulin. So some people, they eat as many carbs as they want and they take insulin for it. Some people, by their own decision, not required genetic, by being type 1 diabetic, they're on very low carb programs. In a way, it's optional. And I hope you didn't miss this point too, because sometimes when you're on insulin, your blood sugar will go low, right? That's unavoidable. That doesn't mean you're uncontrolled. Eventually, you're going to have a low, or at least with the monitors we have now, CGMs and stuff like that, we can detect our lows earlier. You're going to be going towards a low, and at that point, you will be required to eat sugar, candy, whatever you name it. And I think most of you probably know that, but if you told someone they can't eat a food, and let's say it was something sweet like cake or whatever, they probably already took insulin, or for whatever reason they needed to eat that food. Once they had started eating it, they probably had already done the math, and it would be dangerous for them at that point not to eat it because the insulin was in their system. So yeah, don't judge a type 1 diabetic based on what and the memes on this one, you will see it's like hundreds of memes. If you go to a type 1 diabetes memes group of, oh my goodness, someone told me, are you supposed to eat that? Are you type 1? You're diabetic. You're not supposed to eat that. Can you eat this? And I remember in some of my first experiences, I try to be polite. I'm a gentleman, good Jewish boy. I had a nice mother and taught me manners. And I was living in Korea when I was diagnosed. And somebody, I mentioned that I wasn't going to eat the white rice with my meal. And she said, oh, you have to eat the rice, but don't eat the oil. And she was telling me that the sesame oil, which they cook their food in the middle of the table when they're having meat-based stuff at a lot of Korean type restaurants. And so you take the meat and dip it in sesame oil with salt in it or something like that. And she was saying, oh, don't have that. And that was a different, that's like an old school kind of thought. It was way back in the whatever era. We're being told that fat is so harmful for us, and many have converted the view that sugar is in fact the problem, and that there's a lot of subtleties to that, so I'm not even going to get into that there. So yeah, don't tell your type 1 diabetic what to eat. Now I want you to have this certificate of completion here. Here's what you are allowed to say in regard to type 1 diabetics' food choices. You ready? Okay, that was it. Nice video.